The Midnight Dispatch is a fictional podcast inspired by real people and events. Characters have been dramatized for entertainment purposes and artistic exploration. This is not a documentary. It is a work of imagination and may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Scene 1. Dinner at Tennison Road. Arthur Conan Doyle's home on Tennison Road sits like a quiet sentinel in the South Norwood fog. It is a tall, narrow Victorian with ivy curling up its brick facade and a brass knocker on the door shaped like a lion's head. Inside, the dining room glows with the soft light of oil lamps. The walls are lined with dark wood paneling and shelves of well-thumbed books. A fire burns low in the hearth, casting a steady warmth that seeps into the bones of the house. The table is set for 3, Oscar Wilde, Harry Houdini, and Doyle himself, gathering over a late supper, their plates half finished, their conversation anything but ordinary.
You know, Arthur, I do believe your roast is the most spiritual thing I've encountered all week.
That's because you haven't been to church.
Or maybe because he has.
I've always found roast beef more filling than sermons. At least it doesn't come with guilt.
Or salvation.
Salvation is overrated. I much prefer dessert.
Oscar, don't deny it. You trade your soul for a pudding.
Only if it's lemon custard, Harry. And only if the soul in question is someone else's.
You joke, but I've seen men trade far worse for less. A bit of charm, a clever line, it's all sleight of hand in the end.
Spoken like a man who's never had to work a crowd with nothing but a deck of cards and a prayer.
Or a poem and a scandal.
I've had my share of both, thank you very much.
Then you know, belief is a tool. You use it, or someone else will.
They laugh, the kind of laughter that comes easily between men who have seen too much and still choose to sit at the same table. Eventually, the mood shifts, as it always does when the revelry fades.
Tell me something, both of you. What is it we actually believe in? Magic, illusion, or just the stories we whisper to ourselves when the lights go out? Lately, I'm not sure I know the difference.
The men ponder a moment before Doyle sets his dinnerware down and offers an answer.
I believe in evidence, in reason, in what can be seen, measured, and proven. Sherlock Holmes doesn't rely on belief. He observes, deduces, and takes action. Not on faith, but on facts. Always facts.
He pauses, eyes drifting to the fire, as if searching for something beyond the flickering flame.
But then again, evidence is not the end of all inquiry. I believe there are truths that reason hasn't caught up to yet. There are voices, real voices. You may scoff, but I've seen tears fall from eyes when a spirit called out to a mother.
You believe those voices were real?
I do, as deeply as I believe in gravity or grief. The world is stranger than deduction allows, and if my own son were to reach out to me from beyond, I would not dismiss it for the sake of logic.
And yet you write stories about a man who dismisses every mystery as a puzzle waiting to be solved.
Sherlock is my better half, the half untouched by loss or longing. But I am not Sherlock. I know what it is to listen for footsteps in an empty room, to hope that there's more to death than a door slamming shut.
The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was reflective and heavy, the sort that settles when something true has been said.
Well, I believe in what holds up under pressure. Locks, steel, timing. I believe in the silence right before a trap snaps shut. Magic, illusion, they're tools. Misdirection is survival. When you're dangling upside down with your wrists bound in front of a crowd waiting to see if you're about to die.
He shifts slightly in his chair, voice quieter now.
But then there's what you see when the curtain drops. A face you knew, now gone. A door you swear was shut that's suddenly open. I've seen things I can't explain, and I've exposed things people swore were miracles. So yes, I believe, but not in safety, not in answers.
He looks between them, one hand resting on the table, his recently wounded knuckles visible.
I believe that sometimes the lie is what keeps you breathing. The story you whisper when the lights go out, that's not weakness. That's armor.
The conversation trails off, replaced by the quiet scrape of silver against china and the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Something shifts, not in the room, but in the rhythm of their gathering. Doyle set his utensils aside, the steady warmth of the hearth now feeling too distant, too polite. Outside, carriage wheels rolled against cobblestones as London seems to settle into something heavier. There is more to the night these days. Not ghost stories, not theory, but something real. Blood in the streets, names etched into headlines and headstones. Not a phantom, but a man, seen by no one, feared by everyone.
The Ripper is still out there. Nichols, Chapman, Eddowes. How many more? The police are chasing shadows while these poor victims go unavenged.
Not all shadows are empty. At the temple, during the obsidian bowl ritual, I saw her, a flower cart rolling down a cobbled street with a young lady pushing it. There were lilies in her arms. I felt it. She's next.
Visions, reflections. I saw only myself.
Perhaps that's what you were meant to see.
I saw a gate, more like a stone archway housing a clouded portal, closed. But something was behind it, and I could feel it watching. It was a black void, and it swirled like a menace, yet to be unleashed.
I don't think visions from a bowl will be much help in solving the mystery of these murders. I've spent too many hours chasing cold facts through hot streets to trust something conjured in silence and shadow. I want patterns, motives, a footprint in blood, not a lily in a dream.
He leans forward slightly, voice firm but not mocking.
I've been to seances. I've listened to mediums cry out names they couldn't possibly know. And yes, I've felt something shift in the room, as if the dead were not as far away as we suppose. But belief isn't the same as application. Spiritual intuition won't catch a man who hides behind lamplight and fear. Jack the Ripper, his flesh and blood, not smoke and vision. We need to outthink him in the real world.
Yes, but we all three have seen the impossible. We can't pretend those things didn't happen.
I'm not pretending. I'm choosing not to be ruled by them.
There's a difference.
There's a choice.
And what if the choice is between madness and meaning? Between believing in something impossible or accepting that we're powerless?
I'd rather believe in something, even if it's wrong. At least then I'm not standing still. The girl in Oscar's vision, if she's real, if she's out there, what does that mean?
It means we can find her. And if we can find her, we can stop this.
Many of the victims sold flowers, matches, needles, just odds and ends from their carts. Young women just trying to survive. Many gather in Whitechapel, which is the scene of most of the murders.
Then we find her before he does.
A long pause. The rain has stopped, but the quiet it leaves behind is louder than before.
So, we've established that we're all storytellers then.
Of course we are. History is but myth with clever footnotes.
Then let me suggest a plot twist. We set a trap.
Trap who, exactly? The Ripper? You propose we bait a phantom with breadcrumbs?
No. With someone real, someone he might notice.
That's monstrous.
Maybe. Or maybe it's necessary.
A beat. The oil lamps flicker slightly as Oscar pours more wine, not in thirst, but to delay his reply.
Arthur, I dislike reality when it requires sacrifice, particularly someone else's.
Better a trap we choose than a grave he does.
We need someone brave, someone who knows the streets.
She'd have to agree. It's not like we're doing anything wrong. These poor girls are already in danger every night out there. We're just choosing one, following, that's all.
But only if she agrees.
And we shadow her, every step, every turn.
Until what? Until the butcher emerges from the mist.
Until we see what Scotland Yard hasn't. Patterns, precision, a weakness. With any luck, our presence might deter him.
Wilde stands and walks to the window and peers into the dark.
We dress ourselves in wit and reason, but the dark sees through it. It knows what we are when no one's watching.
He turns sharply, finishes his drink quickly, and eyes the other two with uncharacteristic seriousness.
Okay, gentlemen. Tomorrow night, we walk into the dark not to banish it, but to see who we become inside it.
Scene 2. Whitechapel. Whitechapel in the late afternoon is a place of thin light and thinner hope. The streets are slick with rain and the cobblestones darkened by wet soot pooling in the gaps. Smoke curls from fractured chimney pots and mingles with a creeping fog that slinks low across windowsills and alley mouths. The market is winding down, though a few stubborn stalls remain open, leaning, tired, much like the women who run them. A lamplighter in a fraying cap begins gathering his gear for the night. A boy sells the last of his newspapers with headlines about another murder. Most pedestrians walk with heads down, collars high, not from cold but from something heavier. Oscar, Harry, and Doyle move quietly through the narrow lanes, their coats damp, their presence like punctuation marks in a city that's already decided how the sentence reads. Eyes scan faces, carts, corners. Their steps feel somewhat rehearsed, yet also new to them. None of these men frequent this part of London, and the hesitation in their stride echoes their apprehension. Then they see her. Frances stands beside a battered wooden cart, arranging small bundles of flowers with surprising care. Her hands are red from the cold, but her posture is proud, shoulders squared, movements deliberate. She doesn't look up when they approach.
You've got a good eye for arrangement. That's not just a bunch of flowers. That's a message.
Yeah? What's it say?
I think it says you're not afraid of thorns.
Depends who's holding the stem.
A poet would say it's the hand that matters. A realist would say it's the blade.
And what would you say?
I'd say I've been both.
She finally looks up. She's not unkind, but cautious. She's used to being watched, and not always for good reason. She stands with the practiced stillness of someone accustomed to being overlooked, head down, hands busy arranging flowers with precise, unflinching care. Her coat is worn at the seams, stitched with mismatched thread, and her boots speak of long walks and little rest. Wind reddens her knuckles, but she doesn't flinch. The lines of her face suggest she's younger than her eyes allow. Those eyes are sharp, too knowing for her age, and quick to measure anyone who approaches. Stray strands of dark hair escape a frayed bonnet, and the way she adjusts each flower, never hurried, always deliberate, suggests someone who's learned to find grace in duty. When she finally looks up, it's not with welcome, but with assessment. Oscar sees it instantly, strength masked as politeness, suspicion as survival.
We're not here to cause trouble. We're looking for someone brave.
You lot police?
Not exactly. We are, I guess you might say we are something else.
That's not comforting.
It's not meant to be. Comfort's a luxury out here. We're trying to stop what's coming next.
What's coming next?
Another flower. Another grave.
She studies them. The cart creaks slightly as she shifts her weight. A drizzle resumes, light but insistent.
We want to set a trap. We need someone the Ripper might notice, someone he might follow.
You want me to be bait?
We'll be watching. Every second. You won't be alone.
That's what men always say. Then they vanish when it matters.
I won't vanish.
You going to be watching too?
Closer than anyone.
She holds his gaze for a long moment. Something in his posture, rigid but not rehearsed, makes her pause. Then she nods once, sharply.
I walk from here to the corner of Burner Street, past the tannery, then the pub. I don't stop and I don't talk. I don't look back. At least not anymore. Used to be, we'd walk in pairs, talk loud and make jokes, pretend we weren't scared. Now, the girls who can, stay home. The rest of us, we keep our heads down and pray he's already found someone else.
She glances down the road, lost in thought or perhaps good memories with old friends, and then back at them.
I knew Annie, sold matches 2 stalls down, and Kate, Catherine Eddowes, she used to sing when she worked, loud like she wasn't afraid of anything. But she was, we all are now. Most girls won't come out after dark, some won't come out at all.
She adjusts the flowers in her arms, her voice steady but low.
I keep walking because I have to, but I know what's out there. I know what he does.
That's why we need you. You know the streets. You know the risk.
I know what it costs.
A gust pushes fog through the alley behind them. A lantern flickers. A man coughs in the distance. She turns back to her cart, selects a single lily, then tucks it beneath her coat. Her voice softens but loses none of its resolve.
I'll do it. But if he comes for me, and you're not there, I'll haunt the 3 of you until your dying days.
Fair enough.
We'll be there.
Every step.
She tucks the remaining flowers under her arm and starts walking. Her pace isn't hurried, but it carries purpose. The men follow, each peeling off in a different direction. The trap is set. The moment Frances turns onto Burner Street, she moves like a shadow, steady, familiar. Her feet know the stones, even as her heart forgets what rhythm used to feel like. The rain has stopped, but in her mind, it hasn't. She remembers a night last winter, colder than this, bitter and sharp. She had no coat then. Annie gave her the worn gray shawl she'd stitched herself. "Take it," she said. "I'm not using it, and you look like Sin and Frost had a child." They'd laughed loud and defiant under a broken street lamp while drinking watered-down gin from a tin cup. Annie had sung, badly. Frances had danced, worse. And for one night, they pretended they were untouchable. A whistle from a constable had ended it. "Move along, girls. Trouble's best found somewhere else." They moved. They always did. Annie kept calling that shawl her armor. Frances found it 3 days later, stuffed under a crate where the market meets the alley. It was torn, wet, and still smelled faintly of violets. She has it with her now, tucked tight beneath her coat. Her fingers brush the fabric as she walks, and she wonders, not for the first time, if Annie meant her to find it, as if sending her a personal message, "Be braver than me." Frances presses forward, and just like she promised, she doesn't look back. Scene 3. Chasing Shadows. Evening in Whitechapel arrives without warning. The light doesn't fade, it vanishes, swallowed by the narrow streets and darkening layers of smog. The air is damp and sour, thick with coal smoke and the sharp tang of blood from a butcher spraying the waste of a hard day's work into a grate. A dog barks once, then goes silent. Somewhere, a door slams and doesn't reopen. Frances walks alone. She doesn't flinch when a man stumbles drunk out of a doorway behind her. She doesn't react when a cartwheel snaps in the distance. Her face is set like stone. She's done this before, but tonight, every sound feels closer. Every silence feels longer. She moves with practiced rhythm, her bundle of flowers tucked under one arm, her eyes fixed ahead. She doesn't slow down. Her route is deliberate, past the tannery, past the pub, past the places where the others were last seen. Oscar watches from the pub. He sits behind a smudged pane, fingers curled loosely around a chipped glass. His drink is untouched. His eyes never leave the street. Around him, patrons drink, argue, sing, life's usual theater. But for Oscar, the world beyond the glass is the only act worth watching. He sees Frances pass. He notes the line of her coat, the rhythm of her pace, how her hand slips into the folds of fabric, brushing something hidden. A talisman, or maybe a warning. He scribbles absently into his notebook.
A girl walked into the dark and took the silence with her.
He pauses. That's not wit, that's prophecy. Harry leans against the butcher's wall, swaying just enough to be ignored. His breath smells of gin, real or staged, it doesn't matter. He mutters to himself, slurring nonsense, just loud enough to keep people away, but his eyes are sharp beneath the brim of his cap. He watches everything, every passer-by, every shadow that lingers too long. His coat is stained, his cap pulled low, and he sways just enough to be ignored. A bottle, the prop emptied hours ago, dangles from one hand. Frances rounds a corner. For a moment, she disappears behind stacked crates. Harry steps forward slightly. His hand curls around the blackjack in his pocket. His fingers itch. Timing matters, he whispers to himself.
13 paces. No sound. No witnesses. Another 10 steps to the alley. Come on, Harry. Stay focused.
He doesn't like this part of the street. There are far too many blind spots. Doyle follows at a distance, just far enough to be unseen, just close enough to intervene. His pace is deliberate and measured, hands gloved, one resting on the hilt of a pocket revolver. His eyes scan alley mouths, rooftops, reflections in dirty glass. He stops near an iron gate and watches Frances cross between two pools of light. She's visible, then gone, then visible again. A rhythm of concealment. Doyle murmurs under his breath.
Stay in sight. That's it. Just ahead, where I can see you.
Then Frances turns a corner and disappears from view. Harry straightens. The bottle slips from his hand and rolls into the gutter. He hears something, a cry, a gasp. It's faint, swallowed almost instantly by the fog. Harry is on the move. The drunk act drops instantly. He cuts across the street, scanning doorways and alley openings. His hand is in his coat now, fingers brushing the handle of a small blackjack. He should have passed Doyle, but he doesn't see him. Oscar shifts in his seat, trying to catch sight of her again. Nothing. He feels sharp panic, realizing he has lost sight of her. He leaps up from the seat and steps out of the pub, his boots hitting the street with a sharp crack. He looks left, then right. Nothing. No sign of Frances. Harry appears from the mist, eyes wide.
Frances!
No answer. A door creaks open somewhere behind him, then slams shut again. A cat darts across the road, hissing. Harry runs a few steps ahead and rounds the corner where Frances vanished. The street is empty, just a torn scrap of paper fluttering in the gutter.
Arthur?
Still nothing. He hears it again, a sound like breath caught in a throat followed by silence. He turns back to Oscar.
I lost her. She turned this corner and then nothing.
What about Arthur? Wasn't he behind her when she made this turn?
I thought so, but when I ran after her, I never passed him.
Oscar's eyes dart. He looks behind, hoping for Doyle's form in the fog. Nothing, not even the sound of boots. They both look down the street, into the deepening fog, and see no movement. Just the slow drip of water from a broken gutter and the distant clatter of a cart turning down another road.
Arthur?
No answer.
He wouldn't just vanish. Did he go after the attacker, or was he apprehended?
I'm not sure, but if he thought he could stop him, he would have pursued.
They break into a run, boots striking the cobblestones hard, sharp echoes slicing through the fog like accusations. The mist doesn't part for them. It clings, wraps around their coats, and blinds their peripheral vision. The silence around them feels unnatural, too complete, like the world itself is holding its breath. No barking dogs, no passing carriages, not even the slosh of gutter water. Just absence. A vacuum of sound that makes each footfall feel sacrilegious. Oscar leads, eyes scanning every shadow with increasing desperation. His breath comes in shallow bursts, lips tight, fingers twitching near the pen he always carries. He wants to write this down, but not like this, not as an ending. Harry is just behind, breath ragged, heart hammering like fists against a locked door. He's counting each step, unconsciously, 12, 13, 14, because counting is control, and control is survival. They pass the butcher's archway where Frances should have reappeared by now. She doesn't. A flicker of movement catches Oscar's eye, a curtain twitching in a second-story window. But when he looks up, the pane is dark, like the window itself swallowed the moment. Harry's pace stutters for just a heartbeat. His instincts, forged in escapes and timed illusions, scream that something is wrong with the rhythm of the street, too still, too flat, like a stage before tragedy. They reach the outlet at the far end of the alley, an opening flanked by rusted iron posts and a crooked lamppost listing to one side. They slow, not from exhaustion, but from dread. Their eyes scan ahead, then behind, then overhead, expecting something, anything. But there is no movement, and more importantly, no Francis. Oscar grabs the lamppost, steadying himself, chest heaving.
She should have come through here by now.
Something's wrong.
He says it like it's an incantation, not to inform Harry, but to force the world to admit it. Then, faintly, like a memory passing, a sound, not a scream, not a cry. Something smaller, a gasp caught mid-breath. It cuts through the quiet like a needle-tearing fabric. Harry spins toward the noise, eyes wide, fingers curled into fists.
That was her.
Then we're already too late.
They bolt toward the sound, into the dark, not running now, pursuing, chasing the echo of something that should have never happened. The alley grows narrower, the air thicker. Every footfall becomes a gamble, every breath a countdown. And still, no Doyle, no Francis, no sign that the trap was ever a thing they could control. The alley is narrow and crooked, hemmed in by crumbling brick and rusted iron. Swallow Gardens isn't marked on most maps. It's the kind of place people forget on purpose, the kind of place where things go missing. Francis lies still, her body curled against the cold stone. The flowers she carried are strewn across the alley like a shattered tribute. Petals torn, stems broken, red threading through white. Her throat bears the violence. Her eyes remain open, fixed on nothing. No footsteps, no witnesses, not a single sound in the hour it mattered most. Oscar arrives first. He stops just short of the body, his breath catching in his throat. He doesn't speak. Paralyzed with shock, his eyes dart in every direction. The Ripper can only be minutes away. How? Harry appears moments later, out of breath, his coat askew. He sees her, then he sees Oscar. He gasps as he stumbles backwards, shocked at the scene.
Where the hell is Arthur?
I'm assuming he is in pursuit of the killer, or worse.
Harry kneels beside Francis, gently closing her eyes as Oscar looks down the alley, into the dark. The quiet feels wrong, too still. Harry scans the brickwork and broken windows, calling Arthur's name once, then again, but the echo comes back empty. Somewhere between the trap they'd set and the chase they'd lost, the night had rewritten the rules. Arthur was gone. The girl was dead. And Swallow Gardens, with its crooked paths and watching silence, had taken more than they'd bargained for.
Good evening, listeners. Welcome to the Midnight Dispatch. I'm your host, Joe, and this has been episode 8, One Last Flower. This episode title reminds us that every victim was more than a name and a headline. Frances, like Annie and Kate before her, was a bloom in the fog, fragile, beautiful, and brave. The flower becomes both prophecy and memorial, a symbol of innocence cut short and of the stories we tell to keep memory alive. Not a whole lot of this episode was real, but there is a social narrative carved into reality worth exploring, so let's get into it. First of all, what was real? Well, the names mentioned, Nichols, Chapman, Eddowes, were all real victims of the Ripper murders. Many of these women sold flowers, matches, or small goods, just as Frances does in the episode. Also, the fog, soot, and atmosphere of late 19th century Whitechapel was all drawn from historical accounts. It was a place of poverty, fear, and constant danger. Frances is a fictional composite character, representing the many women who lived difficult lives in Whitechapel at that time. Her courage and vulnerability embody the real dangers faced by Ripper victims. For over a century, the dominant narrative has been that Jack the Ripper targeted prostitutes, women out at night where they weren't supposed to be. Victorian press and police reports often reduced them to quote-unquote immoral women, reinforcing stigma. Reality, as usual, is much more complex. Many victims were casual laborers, selling flowers, matches, or sewing work, who sometimes turned to other acts when desperate. Poverty, not immorality, was the common thread. They were women surviving in a brutal economic system. The quote-unquote prostitute label allowed Victorian society to distance itself from the murders, framing them as punishment for vice rather than tragedies of poverty and neglect. It erased the humanity of the victims. So our story shifts the narrative from women who shouldn't have been there to women who had no choice but to be there. Frances embodies resilience, survival, and the cost of living in a society that failed its most vulnerable. She also carries Annie's shawl, stitched with violets, as a talisman. This detail humanizes her, showing how women built networks of care and remembrance even in dangerous circumstances. So let's talk about some of the themes in this episode. We have the reoccurring theme of belief versus evidence. Doyle insists on facts, Wilde delights in myth, and Houdini trusts only what can be tested. This episode explores how belief systems collide when faced with real danger. Storytelling as survival. Each man frames reality through narrative, and Frances herself uses memory and ritual, like the shawl and the flowers, as a type of armor against fear. There's also the theme of loss and longing. So Doyle's grief, Houdini's brushes with death, and Frances's memories of Annie all underscore the human cost of violence and the yearning for meaning and tragedy. We get a quick glance of the dark as mirror theme. Wilde's closing line, "Tomorrow night we walk into the dark, not to banish it, but to see who we become inside it," crystallizes this theme. The Ripper is not just a killer, he's a reflection of what fear and violence reveal in those who confront him. And lastly, we see the theme of power and vulnerability. The trap forces the men to reckon with sacrifice, but it is Frances's bravery that highlights the imbalance of power between women surviving on the streets and these three wealthy men theorizing about danger over a fancy dinner. They're meant to seem out of place in Whitechapel, not fully immersed in the lives of those around them. So let's close with talking about the trap itself and what happens when it all goes wrong. Arthur Doyle believes in reason, deduction, and evidence. His plan to set a trap is grounded in logic, but it exposes the limits of rationality when confronted with chaos. His absence at the crucial moment underscores how even the most disciplined mind can falter. Wilde brings wit, vision, and prophecy. His words are sharp, his imagination vivid, but when Frances disappears, his cleverness offers no protection. His gift for language becomes powerless against the silence of the alley. Houdini trusts in timing, vigilance, and survival. He positions himself as the watchful protector, but his skills as an escape artist don't translate into saving someone else. His counting steps and rehearsed vigilance collapse when the rhythm of the street breaks. So why do they fall short? Good intentions versus reality. Each man wants to protect Frances, but their tools, logic, wit, illusion, are inadequate against the brutality of the Ripper. They're basically storytellers, not policemen, and their narratives cannot shield her. The trap as hubris. Their plan might have been born of noble intent, but it's also arrogance. They believe they can outthink or outmaneuver a killer who thrives in shadows. In the end, the trap ensnares them instead, leaving them powerless. Absence of control. The fog, the silence, the vanishing, all emphasize that control is an illusion. Their failure isn't from a lack of care, but from the impossibility of mastering chaos. And the thematic resonance. So you have men of ideas versus women of survival. The men debate belief, evidence, and illusion, but Frances, she lives the danger. Her courage is practical, immediate, and embodied. Their failure highlights the gulf between theory and lived reality. The cost of good intentions. The episode suggests that good intentions without the ability to act decisively can be as dangerous as malice. Frances pays the price for their plan, even though they meant to protect her. One Last Flower is not just a title, It is a reminder that every victim was a bloom, fragile yet defiant, carrying beauty into a world that refused to see it. And when the petals fall, we are left with the question, not of who killed them, but of who failed to keep them alive. Well, that does it for this week. Thanks for joining me tonight, and please don't forget to check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/themidnightdispatch. As always, feel free to email me at themidnightdispatch@gmail.com if you have any questions or thoughts you'd like to share, and I hope to see you all next week. Until then, good night, everyone.